Alaikum Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem HaKodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. A sincere Shalom to the hopeful like that's out there, listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom. All right, Akin. So I got this article pulled up. This is from March 16th, just 2 days ago. It says Iran's Larijani urges Muslim states to back Tehran against U.S. and Israel. Okay, so Larijani was an advisor of Khamenei, the one who was murdered by the Epstein regime. Okay, and basically he's very highly influential politician in Iran. All right, so he basically is speaking for Iran in this article. So I'm gonna read it again. It says Iran's Larijani urges Muslim states to back Tehran against the U.S. and Israel. Okay, it says the Tasnim news agency has published a 6-point message from Ali Larijani, Iran's Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, addressed to Muslims worldwide and the governments of Islamic countries. The letter calls on Muslim majority states to support Iran as the war with the U.S. and Israel continues. Larijani wrote that Iran had faced a coordinated assault during negotiations, right? So America, Israel, and Iran were supposed to be negotiating, but they caught Iran off guard, and that's when they sent all those bombs over there and they killed the supreme leader, so on and so forth. Showing you how Esau is, man. All right, like the scripture says, his words were smoother than oil, but his words are smoother than oil, but war was in his heart. Roughly paraphrasing. Okay, showing you, man, this devil, he's just a smooth talking, used car salesman. These Edomites. But at the end of the day, man, they're murderers, man. All right, they're not gonna fight fair, and that's why the whole world is coming up against America, man. Even America's own allies are tired of America, man. They're actually, I'm gonna have to make another video on that. They're making, they're gonna be using a different currency altogether, something along those lines. They might be just cutting off America in certain aspects, but I'll have to make a lesson on that. I don't want to speak too much on that yet, but it goes hand in hand with the lesson I made a little bit ago. I think it might have been my last lesson. That says America's getting the cold shoulder from its allies, right? Which are the European Union countries. Okay, so as you can see, man, the whole world is choosing sides, man. It's America and Israel versus everybody else. Okay, this is what we're seeing. Now, it says Iran faced a deceptive American Zionist invasion during negotiations, which aimed to divide Iran. He said he also criticized Muslim governments for failing to support Tehran. Do you know that except in rare cases, and that too in the political dimension, none of the Islamic governments have come to the aid of the Iranian nation? Larijani urged leaders across the Muslim world to take sides in the conflict. On one side of today's battle are America and Israel, and on the other side are Muslim Iran and the resistance forces. Which side are you on? See, that's the main takeaway here, man. So Iran is speaking to these other countries, these predominantly Arab countries, and saying, whose side are you on, man? So sides will have to be picked here, man. This is the spirit that's out here. This is the spirit the Lord is putting on these different countries, man, to pick sides against America. It says he also called for broader unity across the Muslim world. The unity of the Islamic Ummah with all its might can ensure and guarantee the security, excellence, and independence of countries for all. You see? So they're gonna pick sides, man, and we know what the scripture says about that. Now I went to ChatGPT real quick just to kind of get, more familiar with who he's talking to. And I'll show you what I typed in. I said, in this article titled Iran's Larijani urges Muslim states to back Tehran against U.S. and Israel, which Muslim states is he speaking to? right? And it gave me a whole, bunch of jibber jabber. So I said, give me a simple list of these. It says, here's a simple list of the main Muslim majority countries Larijani was effectively pointing at, especially those seen as aligned with the U.S. or not supporting Iran. So he's talking to these countries here in the Gulf or Arab states, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, right? We heard about attacks that happened there. Bahrain, right? The American military base that was attacked there by Iran. Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, other Muslim majority countries more generally included, right? So it may include things like places like Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, Jordan, so on and so forth, right? So just like kind of a simple list, just so you can wrap your head around what's going on. So what does the scripture say about this, man? This is 2nd Ezra 15:28. Behold, an horrible vision and the appearance thereof from the east. Okay, this is talking about the Middle East over there in Asia, right? They call it the Middle East, but it's really Asia, right? It's Western Asia, really. Okay, now let's go to verse 29. It says, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, right? These nations, the dragons of Arabia, is talking about all these Arab countries over here, man. Okay, definitely the ones we just saw on that list, and maybe others may be included as well in the near future. I'm not 100% sure, but that's not the point. The point being, these Arab countries will be included, man. Whether more decide to join the fight and other surrounding countries, that's yet to be determined. But at least the ones we see on this list, which are the ones that this man was referring to, okay, which, these are all Muslim majority countries, but there's other Muslim majority countries also, okay? But, it's mainly talking about here in 2nd Ezra 15:29, the dragons of Arabia, man. So these Ishmaelites, okay? These Ishmaelites, it says, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble, right? The wind representing that wind of destruction, man, because they're going to come with a vast army, man. They're going to join forces, man, with Iran. Okay, let's get a picture of Islamic countries, just so y'all can get a visual, man. The visuals is important. Okay, look at this, man. You see that? Imagine all those armies getting together with Iran against American Israel. Is over, man. Not to mention you got the intelligence of Russia and China helping in the background. America's own allies ain't even trying to join the fight with America. You see? This is the beginning of the end, man. Everything points to World War III going nuclear. And, of course, the chip must be made mandatory first. Okay? But it says, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, and they all which hear them may fear and tremble. So ain't no army that's going to want to fight these people, man. We know, pursuant to the scriptures, that they are, what does the scripture say? It says that the Ishmaelites are a wild man. We're going to get that in Genesis. Wild man. That's because a person's particular race is a spiritual thing. That's these different nations, they have a certain mindset. Okay, so what does it say about him? Genesis 16:11, and the angel of Yahweh said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because Yahweh hath heard thy affliction. All right, that's the progenitor of the so-called Arab race, right? It says, verse 12, and he will be a wild man, right? Ishmael is going to be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, you see? And he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren. Okay, so these Arabs, the so-called Arabs, are all over there, and they have that wild man mentality. These are masters of guerrilla warfare, man. We saw what happened during the war in Iraq with America when they did that false flag event on 9/11, right? When they deleted 3,000 of their own people to start a war over there with Iraq, or over in the Middle East in general, but ultimately Iraq. What happened, man? Okay, they went over there, they fought over there for over a decade, And ultimately, America had to retreat, man. They couldn't beat these people because they're masters of guerrilla warfare, guerrilla tactics, wild, okay, and they're willing to die for their faith. That's the thing. America's troops aren't willing to die like that, man. Especially now that everybody is so tired of the grind and they see that this country is corrupt as all hell. Who the hell would risk their life for this country, man? Okay, so these people over there are actually willing to fight to the death. Okay? So now getting back to it, in 2nd Ezra 15:30, it says, also the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, right? The Carmanians being the Iranians. Okay, that's the modern day Iranians. It says, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, right? So these Iranians are going to join battle with these so-called Arab countries, these Muslim majority countries. They're all going to come together against Babylon and Israel, man. It says, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Okay, that's America. So America, part of America's thermonuclear destruction and end, part of it is going to come from the hand of Iran. So yeah, they are ultimately going to have those nuclear weapons if they don't have them already, and they're going to launch them here in America and destroy a great part of this place, along with Russia, China. They're also going to shoot their nukes at America, right? Got Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, and America's allies are going to shoot their nuclear weapons here in America. This is what the scriptures say in other precepts that we've brought out before. Okay? All right, let's go to verse 31. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, right? Their wild nature. They're going to have the upper hand. It says, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then these shall be troubled and keep silence through their power and shall flee, right? Nobody's going to want to fight against this army, man. Even Iran alone. But when Iran gets together with all these Muslim countries, you know, kind of how like America's got the United States, right? You back in the day with Russia, you had the USSR. Now imagine Iran with all these so-called Arab countries, man, getting together, you know, in one power with one mind. You can forget about America, bro. This place is finished. So, you know, just a quick update showing you how everything's coming together, just like the scriptures say. Okay, the assembly of great nations. They're gonna fire them nukes at America, man. And these Arab countries are gonna join forces with Iran very soon, man. Very soon. Okay, but again, like we always say, we gotta wait for that chip to go live and to be mandatory for buying and selling, which they're gonna do that very soon. Okay, I've seen some news about these the chips. Might bring out another article on that later. But that's all for now. So with that, I want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like that's out there listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom wa, abba, shalom.